Hi, I'm Kevin Harrington. I'm here with my co-host Forbes Riley, celebrity television host and health and fitness expert.
And of course, my co-host Kevin Harrington, you've seen him on television as the original shark from Shark Tank, but he's also like the premier entrepreneur. When people talk business, they mention your name.
Thank you.
So, but today we're taking a little bit of a different turn on the show. We're going to talk about music, and not just any ordinary music, but an eclectic fusion of different styles. What's your favorite kind of music?
Rock and roll. Good old, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I totally get that. Well, I would like you to meet an amazing man. Say hi to Ross Wright, AKA
Ross, good to have you here
Elvis
today.
Schoenberg.
Good to see you,
Now,
buddy.
you might say,
pleasure.
why Elvis Schoenberg? Because if you know, Elvis is kind of rock and roll and Schoenberg's kind of classic. You're this eclectic mix of everything. Hi.
Hello. Yes.
Los Angeles based, so that you got a good chance to be eclectic out there, right?
Yeah. Well, it would be hard I have very amazing musicians, and there's not that many places on the planet where there's a kind of enough of them to where I could pull from to pull off what I pull off.
Well, and let's talk about what you pull up. But let's start with you're primarily a bassist, yes?
Well, kind of. Well, I'm a bass player professionally. That's my day job.
Okay.
And then, but I'm also an arranger and a conductor and a composer, and so I get as a composer I get commissions to write music for other orchestras as well. But then and that's sort of like that's one thing I do. I might wear many hats. Most musicians in this day and age, we have to wear lots of hats.
Well, and this is a kind of a little bit of a side note. He actually has the music for Wheel of Fortune, and your bumper music.
I did write music for Wheel of Fortune, among other things, yes.
Doesn't seem like the most prestigious. It's not a John Williams move.
No, it's a fun.
impressed.
Actually, ironically, you should mention it. I just got a phone call a few days ago that we're going to do another, because I wrote that music several years ago, because it's library music. Library music basically is music you write, and they just chop it up, and they use little bits for whatever they want to use it for. So
Okay.
never is the whole piece ever played. It's just library. It's little stuff. But they want to redo their library, so they called, and we're going to do it again. So
I'm going to start with one of the most impressive things about you is that you make a living doing your art and doing what you love, yes?
yeah, I guess. I mean, I can't say all the gigs I love, but I do. I do. I don't have a day job. I do make a living as a musician, and I'm the music director for some Persian artists. That was another weird kind of eclectic thing I do. But for him, for example, I tour all over the world, and we play with different orchestras, and I'm the music director, so I get to. We rehearse the band, and then we play a concert. Our last gig was in Hamburg about a month ago. So I do that. That's that's like a job.
All right.
And then as a bass player, I play various kinds of jobs, just jazz gigs to musicals or whatever.
Well, I know about you because you stepped out and decided to create an orchestra.
Yes.
And not just any orchestra.
No.
It's not classical, it's not rock. You've done something kind of crazy with this, mixed in some opera. Explain to me, first of all, the name of your orchestra is what?
It's called Elvis Schoenberg's Orchestre Surreal. And the name Elvis Schoenberg is, for those that's like my pseudonym. I kind of created this.
Because Sting was already taken, right?
Sting was already taken. But no, it was fun. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a funny name, and unfortunately, not enough people get the joke. But you have to be kind of a bit of a music nerd to get the joke.
Maybe it should have been Elvis Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, that would have been a little more obvious. Yeah, it doesn't ring as good. It doesn't sound as. I thought of Elvis Stravinsky because that's kind of more appropriate, but it doesn't really ring as well. But anyway. So that's what I did, and it was kind of funny because I did that kind of as a way to not be myself. It's kind of to create like this sort of. I remember a long time ago I was auditioning for this rock band, and this guy once told me, he said, "It's like a comic book. We want to live in a comic book world. By day I'm Clark Kent, and at night we put on the outfit."
Can you say Kiss? I mean, that's the ultimate comic book.
Oh, totally, exactly, like them. By day, and so. That kind of always resonated with me as this way how to get out of yourself a little bit. And so I thought about doing it. Ironically, it didn't really work as much for me, but the singer that I have in my orchestra, she goes by the fabulous Miss Thing.
She's great.
She's also known as Angela Carol Brown, jazz singer. When you see Angela Carol Brown, jazz singer, she's a great jazz singer, but she's not Miss Thing. I mean, they're like the difference is night and day.
And this is important for the audience to imagine because you take right now rock and roll kind of music, mix it with classical, and then present it to an audience. Perhaps it's not a fan of classical, the millennials and the new people going, and you kind of preserve some of this amazing art by this fusion that you've created.
Yeah, that's the idea. It was to kind of, in a weird way, to democratize music, to sort of put them all on the same level. like Tchaikovsky or Stravinsky, and on the same level as Jimi Hendrix and
Ted Nugent. I mean,
Ted Nugent,
no, but
right.
seriously.
Amazing.
yeah, we are. Anyway, yeah, and so and a lot of people here's the thing: the people who know the classical thing, they think it's fun and they'll feel smart because they go, oh, that's Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony. I know that, and they'll feel smart about catching that little bit, or that's a little quote from the Rite of Spring, or something. But the people who don't know, they'll just go, wow, that's kind of rocking. Because also there's a sophistication to that music that you don't get in rock and roll.
Well, it's a 30-piece orchestra.
I was just going to say, that's the cool thing about what you've done. This is your passion. So
Right, yeah,
you
yeah.
do this at night, but 30 people, when you get a gig, you got to go perform, and you take 30 people, all the instruments, but it's mostly LA, West Coast based. Because
Yeah,
it's
I'll
tough
tell you,
to,
yeah,
you couldn't go to New York with all
Well,
that.
I'd have to pick up an orchestra in New York, like we do with like the Persian guys. I've thought about doing that. It just hasn't happened yet.
Well, we also say you write all the music. You write some really tough music, don't you?
Yes, it's not an easy book.
So you've got to be a pretty sophisticated.
You have to be a good player to play my band.
See,
Yeah.
and I love that. Now, I have a feeling there's all kind of people out there going, wait a second, I want to hear the Orchestra Surreal by Elvis Schoenberg. You have a lot of music, and you've done something very special for the audience today. You've made some of the tracks available
Yes.
for free.
Yes, you can download them.
But I think we're
opt
gonna.
in.
Well, and it's very funny because we've been talking about business for you, and for a lot of people who know us, we're very business oriented, and so if you want to hear the music for free, all you need to do is actually opt in. Give him your email. It's right down below where you can put it,
Right.
and you get the tracks for free. Otherwise, you can go to Amazon or else and just buy them. But
Right.
this is
CD
an
Baby,
opportunity.
Amazon.
It's
Yes.
safe to say you're not going to see this kind of thing anywhere else, right? I mean, it's so unique. And there's such passion,
Yeah.
and it's just unbelievable performance.
You know, when you hear your music, it's otherworldly, and I love the fact that it's called surreal. But I don't know where else you go. I don't really love classical music, but I like the fusion part. And when I hear other people go, "Wow, that was just extraordinary," that's the word they use about you, don't they?
Yeah.
He's
Amazing,
so
extraordinary,
humble.
yeah.
What kind of venues? Let's talk about the venues that you've been at.
Have we played at?
Yeah.
Over the years, we did we headlined at the what's called the Ford Amphitheater. It's almost the Hollywood Bowl in that it's right across the street from it, but it's a nice theater, and they do a summer series, and we did 2 years. And that particular show was actually, we did quite a spectacle because we did like an actual musical where we had people in costumes and dancers and all kinds of stuff. We put it was an actual show. One was a sci-fi kind of thing. One was, and it was quite a production that we did. And anyway, so we've played there. We managed to fill that place up. We've played the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. Yeah.
Right.
But that was part of the summer. Part of their summer. What is it? Not summer.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It was called the Holiday Festival thing.
Right.
Right. And then we've played just venues in LA, the El Rey Theater. We often play, ironically, there's not a lot of places in LA where bands as big as we are
Right.
fit. So we, even though
I
we have played,
remember
we were
that,
one of the
yeah.
only orchestras to play at the Whiskey A Go Go though. We did play the Whiskey.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting
Yeah,
how you
we
fit in
just-
there.
we barely
Orchestra
fit.
Surreal at the Whiskey Go Go.
That is
Yeah,
kinda
and we
crazy.
play at
That's cool.
Typhoon quite a bit.
Now,
which
you
is-
tell a very funny story about, there's a lot of people who love your band. I mean,
yeah.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and we got Martin Mull. There's a whole list of testimonials of very wildly famous people that I
Yeah,
read.
Keith Emerson has played with us. Well, had played with us a few times. In fact, I even wrote a little. Keith comes to me and goes, Ross, I always wanted to do a version of Honegger's Pacific 231 and mix it with honky tonk train blues. And I just thought that would be so cool, And I thought okay. And I thought, he goes, I think you're the only one crazy enough to do that, And I thought, I'll do it. And he goes, yeah, I can do a whole train medley. We can do like, A Train and Train Kept a Rolling and all. And I said,
That's funny.
okay, so I did. I ended up, for him specifically, I wrote a whole little like mini concerto with
That's
honky
amazing.
tonk train blues with Pacific 231 and got A Train and Night Train, and I didn't do Train Kept Rolling. But anyway, and here's a little thing is Keith at the time, his right hand, he had some problems with his right hand, and so his right hand wasn't working as good as it used to. But his left hand, because he's a classical guy, he had a really strong left hand. And my guys, the piano players that play in my group are they're very good pianists, but they're kind of jazz guys. And jazz guys have great right hands, and their left hands are kind of like, they just play changes. They don't really like to work on all the left-handy stuff. And I've always been fascinated, I always loved, it's just kind of the stupidest thing, this thing called Bumble Boogie. right?
Okay.
But there's a very specific kind of like this, like it's this
Yeah.
big, like that boogie woogie
Sure,
bass line
yeah.
on the left
Yeah,
hand. Right?
yeah.
I always wanted to use that, but the guys in my band weren't really the kind of pianists who could really pull that off, right?
Right.
But I knew Keith could pull that off, so I in the middle of all this train stuff, I threw in Bumble Boogie, which is this. It's like it's Flight of the Bumblebee,
Right.
Right.
But this boogie woogie thing,
Right.
So and Keith could do it, so I was able to throw that in there amongst all this other stuff that was, anyway, and yeah, so he played that with a band a couple times, and then you know.
You know, you also tell a funny story. Can you share this with Kevin?
Sure.
About the drummer for Ted Nugent's band.
Oh, yeah.
I love this story.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, it's kind of a silly thing. He just, long time ago, this was back, I remember we played at the Hollywood Athletic Center, and it was when the band was first starting playing. And one of the tunes I arranged was a song called Dog Eat Dog. And in the middle of the Dog Eat Dog, I insert a bit of Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony, the fourth movement of the Fifth Symphony. Anyway, and so it just happens that, I forget the guy's name. He was a British guy. He had like a name like Nigel or Basil or one of those British kind of names.
Right.
Anyway, and he had been Ted Nugent's drummer like back in the 70s, back when he was touring that tune and everything. And so afterwards I met him. He was telling me how, at the time he was like, it wasn't his favorite gig, let's just say. But he worked it out that he goes, I was making $100 a minute touring with Ted, And so he would be playing his drums and he'd be thinking, he'd do a fill and he goes, okay, there's 100. About a minute later, okay, there's 200. And that's how he got through the tour, playing.
This gets down to the passion about
Sure.
because you have the day job, you make the money doing what you do, but this is something you do for just
It's
love
as a
and-
fun, yeah,
and-
it's a
and the
fun.
passion of it,
And
right?
it's also, well, here's the thing. It's also I never, as a composer, I never have. I always have a band or an ensemble to write for. And I really kind of started originally. I thought there's two things. One, actually, I thought, okay, how do you get good at this? How do you get good at being a composer? We got to compose, right? And so you need, and the only way I ever got anything finished was when there was a deadline or there was a gig or there was something that made me, because it's not always easy to stay focused on and finishing something, and there has to be kind of a payoff.
Right.
And the payoff is to hear it, And the other thing, I got inspired by John Williams. You mentioned John Williams. John Williams is a bit of a plagiarist, and not in a bad way. I mean, if you know like things like Lemaire or King's Row or Rite of Spring, and then you listen to Jaws and Star Wars, you go, oh my God, he really lifted a lot of this stuff, came right out of those things. It was Prokofiev and the Darth Vader thing, and these guys. Anyway, but no disrespect to Don, he's one of my favorite composers, and he does it magnificently well, and he is his own guy, and I think his music will be 100 years from now, they'll be playing it. But anyway, what I liked about him is because he's a film composer, he can get away with that. He can steal this stuff and plagiarize it, and also I figure that's how you learn. How do you want to write like Shostakovich or Stravinsky? You got to kind of get under the hood and dig.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
When you write something
Yeah,
and
yeah.
your band plays it, does it sound like it did in your head?
Well, yeah. Well, nowadays we can cheat almost. It's like there's computers now. It's not like the old days. When I first started writing music, and I would write it, and I'd have the score, and I'd imagine it, and I'd play it in front. There was this magical moment where like, wow. Now because I have a computer that I can push a button and kind of hear it, played perfectly in rhythm and perfectly in time and perfectly. It's sort of when I have the real band playing it, it's not as inspiring.
On the business side, some of
Yeah, sure.
the classical songs, they're out of royalty structure and all that.
Yeah,
It's
most of
kind
it, well,
public
not all of it.
domain or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's public domain.
Yeah.
Not all of it, actually.
No.
No, because we do a bit of Carmina Burana, and I found out, to my chagrin, that that's not public domain.
Okay, all right.
By the way, do you need the whole band now that you can do a lot of it on a computer?
Well, if you want, here's the thing. It's an experience. I mean, I could play it on the computer, and I could get my yah-yahs off of just doing it, but it's not the same as standing in front of the orchestra and conducting and going, boom, and you're like, oh, that's
But it's
just
the performance in front of a crowd too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
You're in front of thousands of people.
Here's the
so-
thing. One time I did a gig once. I was playing bass, and a guy. We were playing to tracks. It was one of the first times. It was years ago. And at one point, like most bands that you hear nowadays, play to tracks. And that's cheating.
Okay, we hear it. No lip syncing.
No, and I didn't. And I remember one time we did that, and the band hated it, and we had a really good band too, and really good players. And at some point, the track started to mess up, and so all of a sudden, all this background went on the background, and all of a sudden it was just the band playing, and you lost a certain amount of the fullness. But all of a sudden, I just felt it. All of a sudden, the bang, it was like the handcuffs were taken off. And all of a sudden, it started to groove better. And I never forgot that. And I thought, I never want to do that. I always want to just, I'd rather sacrifice the fullness and precision to just the real thing.
Now we should give a shout out to your band. You have some of the most amazing studio musicians, and my understanding is they play with you because they want to play live. They get to perform, and so you've got some of the best on this, haven't you?
I do. I'm very lucky that way.
Give me a shout out.
Well, let's see. There's an amazing violinist named Paul Cartwright who plays in my band, and Matt Cooker, who's a cellist, he's been around forever. There's
when they play with what kind of?
Well, okay, one day Matt goes, hey, I just got back from Fox today. I just did a Paul McCartney session, and Johnny Mandel wrote all the arrangements, it's pretty cool. And I go, how were the arrangements? He goes, oh, they were great. He goes, well, yeah, Paul McCartney's doing a jazz record. So but that's just to him. That's like a normal week.
Right.
And they'll do, or a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, we just did a Michael Giacchini film. We just did Up or whatever the thing."
I have a lot of friends who play music. Very rarely, I've never met many composers at this level.
Yeah.
You are electric. We're about out of time.
Oh, yeah.
I also wanted to shout out that you're also an author. You don't do anything halfway, by the way. You have an orchestra. You don't have like a 4-piece band. I have 30 people in my band. I don't have a book. I have a huge book, which is a bestseller. Ross, you have done so much and so eclectic. Is there anything else that you would like to share with your audience who's watching this as a shout out to just say, hey?
You got me off guard.
Put you on the spot.
Any venue that's out there right now that is looking for some kind of special performance. Let's talk about it.
The Orchestre Surreal is available for any kind of.
Tell them right there.
That one. Okay, I don't know which camera.
Right there.
Well, yeah, we're certainly available for anytime you want to hire us for any function you'd like. We're very, a lot of times, like for example, we just did a 9/11 concert, it was 2 days ago. And I specifically kind of put together a show kind of for that. I didn't want to go jingoistic and super patriotic or something, but we did do a few things it was also at a Shakespeare, it was at a theater that does primarily Shakespeare. So we threw a lot of little Shakespeare things in there. We did, Oh, What a Piece of Work Is Man and stuff like that, and a bit of Henry V and stuff like that. We kind of managed to work that into the show. So, when we do stuff, when people hire us to do things, I generally like to do something like customize it a little bit for whatever it is. So if it's a corporate thing or a college thing or something, we're totally open to that. And
I'll tell you what, I love your music. You gave me a
Right.
CD a very long time ago.
Yes,
it's
I
one
did.
of my favorites in my car because it's hard to play CDs anymore.
You're lucky. I don't even have a CD player in my car.
But I will tell you, it's also downloadable, and that's how you can get to hear Ross's music, or we should say, AKA Elvis Schoenberg. Yes. Truly spectacular, such a genius, so eclectic, and like I said, the fact that you make a living doing what you love should inspire everybody watching that, because Kevin, most people don't get to do that, do they?
No. As an entrepreneur, I love it. I can tell you're an entrepreneur. You love the music, and congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to get some calls from people out there, right?
Oh, I know.
Right now. Okay.
Ross, again, thank you so very much.
Thank you, buddy. Good to meet
All
you.
right, so we're going to enjoy the music. Here, you
Thanks.
pick the one your favorite. And you know what? For Kevin and I, we'll see you guys next time.